The sun came up over the Kansas plains like it always did. Orange light spread across the cornfields and touched the old farmhouse where Jake Morrison had lived for 30 years. He stood on his porch with a cup of coffee in his hand and watched the sky turn from dark to bright. It was a peaceful morning. The kind of morning that made a man forget about the troubles of the world. Jake was 58 years old. His hair had turned gray, and his hands were rough from years of working the land. He looked like any other farmer in the area. Simple clothes, warm boots, and a face that showed the marks of sun and wind. Nobody who saw him would think he was anything special. That was exactly how he wanted it. Inside the house, his wife Linda was making breakfast. The smell of eggs and bacon came through the open window. She was 55 and still had sharp eyes that noticed everything. She had been beautiful when they first met, and Jake still thought she was beautiful now. They had built a good life together on this farm. Their son Danny came out of the big red barn and walked toward the house. He was 32, tall and strong, with the same calm way of moving that his father had. He worked on the farm equipment, or at least that was what the neighbors believed. The machines in that barn were not like any tractor or combine you would find in a store. Beth, their daughter, was in the small building near the barn that she used as a veterinary clinic. She was 28 and had gone to school to become an animal doctor. She took care of the farm animals and helped the neighbors with their livestock. But her little clinic had things inside that no regular vet would ever need. Jake finished his coffee and went inside for breakfast. The family sat around the old wooden table like they did every morning. The television was on in the corner, showing the news. The news had been bad for 3 days now. The aliens had come without warning. Their ships appeared in the sky above every major city on Earth at the same time. They called themselves the Drakari, and they had weapons that made human armies look like children with toys. New York fell in 4 hours. London lasted 6. Beijing, Moscow, Paris, Tokyo. One by one, the great cities of Earth went silent. The world governments tried to fight back. They launched missiles and sent their best soldiers. Nothing worked. The Drakari shields stopped every attack. Their weapons burned through tanks and buildings like they were made of paper. After 3 days, most of the world had surrendered. The television showed images of Drakari soldiers marching through the streets of Washington. They were tall creatures with gray skin and 4 arms. Their eyes were black and showed no feeling. A voice spoke over the images, explaining that all humans must submit to Drakari rule. Resistance was pointless. Humanity had lost. Jake watched the screen with a calm face. Linda glanced at him but said nothing. Danny and Beth kept eating their breakfast as if the news was talking about the weather. There was a knock at the door. Jake got up and opened it to find Sam Hendricks standing there. Sam was 62 years old and lived on the farm next door. He was a big man with a thick beard and hands like shovels. He'd been Jake's friend for 20 years. "Morning, Jake," Sam said. "Brought those supplies you asked for." "Come in, Sam. Have some coffee." Sam came inside and sat at the table. He nodded to Linda and the kids. There was something in his eyes that the others understood. He was not here to talk about farming. "They took out the military base near Topeka last night," Sam said quietly. "No survivors." Jake nodded slowly. "I heard. They're moving fast. Think they'll come out here?" "Eventually. But we're not their priority. No cities, no factories, no military. Just farms and fields. They'll leave us alone for now." Sam looked at the television, then back at Jake. "So we wait, until the time is right." After breakfast, Jake walked out to the barn with Danny. The big doors were closed, but there was a smaller door on the side. Danny unlocked it with a code that would have surprised anyone who thought this was just a farm. Inside, the barn looked normal enough. Tractors, tools, bags of seed. But there was another door at the back, hidden behind stacks of hay. Danny moved the hay aside and opened the hidden door. Behind it was a stairway leading down into the ground. The walls were metal, and the lights were bright. At the bottom of the stairs was a room full of screens where Jake and Danny stood looking at maps and data that showed every alien ship position on Earth. "The network is ready," Danny said. "All 32 sites are online. Everyone is waiting for your signal." Jake studied the screens. Red dots showed the Dratari ships spread across the planet. Blue dots showed the hidden sites, the farms and ranches that looked like nothing special, but held power that the aliens could not imagine. "Not yet," Jake said. "We need them to come to us. We need them confident and careless. They already think we're nothing. Just primitive farmers." Jake smiled a little. "Good. Let them think that." They went back upstairs and closed the hidden door. Danny covered it with hay again, and they walked out into the sunlight. To anyone watching, they were just a father and son checking on farm equipment. That afternoon, Jake saw something in the sky. 3 small ships moving fast over the fields. They were shaped like arrows, black against the blue sky. Alien scout ships. Linda came out and stood beside him. "They're coming?" "Yes. Are we ready?" Jake watched the ships grow closer. His face showed nothing but the calm patience of a man who had worked this land for 30 years. A man who knew how to wait for the right moment to harvest. "We've been ready for a long time," he said. The ships turned and headed toward the Morrison farm. The war was about to change forever, and it would all start in a cornfield in Kansas. The 3 alien ships landed in the field near the farmhouse. They crushed the young corn plants under their metal bodies and sent dust flying into the air. Jake stood on his porch and watched with his hands in his pockets. He made his body look small and afraid. It was not hard to pretend. 6 Drakari soldiers came out of the ships. They were tall, almost 7 feet, with gray skin that looked like stone. Each one had 4 arms, and each arm held a weapon. Their black eyes scanned the farm like they were looking at dirt. One of them was different from the others. He wore a mark on his chest that showed he was the leader. This was Scout Keswick, and he walked toward the farmhouse like he owned it already. Jake stepped down from the porch. He made his voice shake when he spoke. "Please, we don't want any trouble. We're just farmers here. We have nothing of value." Keswick stopped in front of Jake and looked down at him. The alien was 2 feet taller, and his forearms could have torn Jake apart in seconds. His voice came out like grinding rocks. "Human, you will answer my questions." Yes, of course. "Anything you want. How many humans live here?" "Just my family. My wife, my son, my daughter, and me. And our neighbor Sam helps on the farm sometimes." Keswick made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Primitive creatures. You spend your lives digging in dirt and growing food. This is all your species is good for." Jake nodded quickly, keeping his eyes down. "We're just simple people. We don't understand the great matters of the universe. We only know how to grow corn and raise animals." Linda came out of the house carrying a tray with glasses of water. She had put on an old dress and tied her hair back. She looked like a farm wife who had never seen anything beyond her own fields. "Would you like some water?" she asked. Her voice was soft and scared. "It's fresh from our well. Very clean." Keswick looked at the water like it was poison. "We do not consume your primitive liquids." "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend. I just thought you might be thirsty after your journey." The alien ignored her and turned to his soldiers. "Search the buildings. Record everything." The soldiers spread out across the farm. 2 of them went into the house. 2 more went to the barn. The last 2 checked the small buildings around the property. Jake's heart was steady, but he kept the fear on his face. Danny and Beth were hiding in the underground room beneath the barn. The soldiers would not find them. The technology down there was shielded from alien scanners. It would look like nothing but empty space. One of the soldiers came out of the barn and walked to Keswick. "Commander, I am reading strange energy patterns from that structure, but my scanner cannot identify the source." Keswick looked at the barn. "What energy patterns?" "Unknown. The readings are very faint. It could be interference from their primitive electrical systems." Jake spoke up quickly. "That barn is very old. The wires inside are bad. We keep meaning to fix them, but we never have enough money. Maybe that's what your machine is seeing?" Keswick stared at Jake for a long moment. Then he made that grinding laugh sound again. "Your species cannot even maintain basic infrastructure. It is amazing you survived long enough for us to conquer you. Yes, we're not very smart. Not like your people." The soldiers finished their search and returned to Keswick. They reported that the farm contained nothing of military value. Just primitive farming equipment, simple living quarters, and worthless animals. The strange energy readings were dismissed as faulty wiring. Keswick activated a device on his arm and spoke into it. "Scout Keswick to High Commander Vexnor. I have completed assessment of rural human settlements in this region. These areas pose no threat. The humans here are weak and primitive. They know only how to grow food. I recommend we ignore these regions until we need their resources." A deep voice answered from the device. "Understood, Scout Keswick. Mark the location for future resource extraction and continue your survey." "Yes, High Commander." Keswick turned to Jake one last time. "Human, your farm now belongs to the Drakari Empire. You will continue to work this land. When we require your resources, we will take them. If you resist, you will die. Do you understand?" Jake nodded fast. "Yes, I understand. We won't cause any problems. We'll keep growing our crops. Whatever you need." "Good. Your obedience will keep you alive." For now, the aliens returned to their ships. The engines fired, and the three vessels rose into the sky. In moments, they were gone, leaving only crushed corn and boot prints in the dust. Jake watched them go. When the ships disappeared over the horizon, his face changed. The fear melted away, and something cold and hard took its place. Linda came to stand beside him. "They bought it." "Yes, they saw exactly what we wanted them to see." Sam Hendricks came around the corner of the house. He had been hiding in the root cellar, listening through a radio that Danny had given him. "Arrogant fools. They didn't even do a proper search. They think we're beneath them," Jake said. "That's their weakness." Danny and Beth came up from the barn, climbing out of the hidden entrance. Danny was holding a tablet that showed data streams and communication intercepts. "I got everything," Danny said. "Their communication codes, their scanner frequencies, their ship positions. They transmitted it all in the open because they didn't think anyone was listening." Beth smiled. "They think humans are stupid animals." "Then let's show them how wrong they are," Jake said. He looked at his family, at Sam, at the farm that had hidden so many secrets for so long. "Contact the network. Tell everyone to stand by. The trap is set. Now we just need to get them to walk into it." He pulled out a radio and pressed the button. "This is Morrison Farm calling all stations. Phase 1 is complete. The enemy sees us as no threat. Prepare for Phase 2. We're going to end this war." That night, the Morrison farm came alive with activity. But from the outside, everything looked normal. The lights in the farmhouse were dim. The barn was dark and quiet. No one driving by would see anything unusual. Underground was a different story. Jake led the way down the stairs beneath the barn. The metal walls opened into a command center that stretched under the entire property. Screens covered one wall, showing satellite images, communication feeds, and weapon status reports. This room had been built 30 years ago, right after the last Great War, when the government decided that the best defense was one that nobody could see. They called it the Farmland Defense Network. 32 sites across the country, hidden in plain sight. Old farms and ranches run by retired military officers who wanted to live quiet lives but were ready to fight if their country needed them. Each site had different weapons and abilities. Together, they could strike harder than any army on Earth. Linda sat at a communication station and put on a headset. She began contacting the other sites one by one. Her voice was calm and professional, nothing like the scared farm wife she had pretended to be. Prairie Station, this is Morrison Farm. Status report. A woman's voice answered. Morrison Farm, this is Prairie Station. We are ready. All systems are online. Waiting for your signal. Copy that, Prairie Station. Stand by. She moved to the next frequency. Thunder Valley, this is Morrison Farm. Status report. A man's voice came through. Morrison Farm, Thunder Valley is good to go. We have 24 missiles locked and ready. Just say the word. And so it went. One by one, the sites reported in. Hidden missile silos beneath wheat fields. Fighter jets stored in underground hangars disguised as cattle barns. Electromagnetic pulse weapons built into grain silos. Medical stations that could handle hundreds of wounded. Communication towers that looked like old windmills the aliens had conquered Earth cities and destroyed its visible armies. But they had never thought to look at the farms. Danny worked at the main computer, pulling together the data he had stolen from the Drakari scouts. I've got their entire battle network mapped out, he said. 200 ships in orbit. The main fleet is centered over North America. High Commander Vexna's flagship is the biggest one, right at the center. Jake studied the map. What about their shields? Standard plasma barriers. Strong, but they have a weakness. If we hit them with an electromagnetic pulse tuned to the right frequency, the shields drop for about 30 seconds. That's our window. 30 seconds is not much time. It's enough. Our missiles are fast. Beth came in from the medical bay that connected to the command center. All medical supplies are ready. I have enough equipment to treat 500 wounded. I hope we don't need that many. So do I, Jake said. Sam Hendricks was checking weapons at a table near the wall. Rifles, pistols, grenades, things that no farmer should have. The ground teams are ready at all sites. If any aliens survive the attack and try to land, we'll be waiting for them. Pete Collins arrived through a tunnel that connected to another building. He was 45 years old, a former combat pilot who now spent his days fixing tractors and pretending to be a simple farmhand. But beneath the hay storage on his property sat 3 advanced fighter jets that could outrun anything the Drakari had. My birds are fueled and armed, Pete said. The other pilots across the network are standing by. We have 42 aircraft ready to launch. Jake nodded. Good. Now we need to get the enemy to come to us. He walked to a communication panel and entered a code. The screen flickered, and then it showed a channel that connected directly to the Drakari command frequency. Danny had stolen the access codes from Scout Keswick without the alien ever knowing. What are you going to do? Linda asked. I'm going to invite them to a surrender ceremony. Jake activated the channel. His face appeared on a transmission that went straight to the Drakari flagship in orbit. He made his voice sound weak and defeated. This message is for High Commander Vexnor. My name is Jake Morrison. I am a human farmer from the region you call Kansas. I speak for the people of the rural areas who have not yet submitted to your rule. We wish to surrender. He paused and let his voice shake a little. We have seen what your forces did to our cities. We know we cannot fight you. We only ask that you come to our farm and accept our surrender in person. We want to show the universe that humans know when they are beaten. Please, Let us end this with dignity." He ended the transmission and waited. 10 minutes later, the screen flickered again. A face appeared that made everyone in the room feel cold. High Commander Vexnor was larger than any Drakari they had seen. His gray skin was covered with scars from old battles. His black eyes held nothing but contempt. "Human farmer." Vexnor's voice was deep and cruel. "You dare to contact me directly? I meant no offense, Great Commander. I only want to spare my people more suffering." Vexnor made a sound like a growl. "Your people are insects. You have no power to bargain. I know. That is why we surrender. Please, come to our farm. Let the whole galaxy see that humans submit to the Drakari. It will be a great victory for you." The alien studied Jake's face. Then, slowly, he smiled. It was the smile of a predator looking at prey. "Very well, human. I will come to your farm, and I will bring my entire fleet so that all of Earth can see your weakness. Tomorrow at midday, the Drakari Empire will accept your surrender, and then we will decide what to do with your pathetic species." The screen went dark. Jake turned to his family and friends. His eyes were hard as stone. "They're coming. All of them. Right into our trap." Danny looked at the map showing 200 alien ships. "Tomorrow we end this." "Tomorrow," Jake said, "we show the galaxy what humans really are." The morning of the battle was clear and beautiful. Not a single cloud crossed the Kansas sky. The sun was bright and the wind was soft. It was the kind of day when farmers should be working their fields and enjoying the peace of the land. Instead, Jake Morrison stood in his cornfield and watched the sky fill with alien ships. They came from the east, blocking out the sun. 200 Drakari warships in perfect formation. The largest was High Commander Vexnor's flagship, a massive black vessel that looked like a mountain floating in the air. The ship spread out above the farm, covering the sky from horizon to horizon. Jake wore his old farm clothes. He had no weapons visible. He stood alone in the field, looking up at the armada with fear on his face. At least, that was what the aliens saw. Vexnor's voice boomed from speakers on every ship. The sound echoed across the plains and shook the windows of the farmhouse. "Humans of Earth, look upon your conquerors. Your greatest cities have fallen. Your armies are destroyed. And now, even your farmers come to beg for mercy." The flagship lowered until it hovered just above the farm. Vexnor appeared on a viewing platform, looking down at Jake like a god looking at an ant. "Human farmer, kneel before the Drakari Empire. Show the galaxy that your species has accepted its place." Jake looked up at the alien commander. He did not kneel. "High Commander Vexnor," Jake said. His voice was calm now. "No more shaking. No more fear. You made a mistake coming here." Vexnor laughed. "Mistake? I have 200 warships above your little farm. You have nothing but dirt and plants. What mistake could I possibly have made?" Jake looked at his watch. It was exactly 3 o'clock in the Kinagutavan afternoon. "You thought we were just farmers." He raised his hand and spoke one command into the radio hidden in his sleeve. "Light them up." What happened next would be talked about across the galaxy for 1,000 years. The first minute, the grain silos on 32 farms across the Midwest opened at the same time. From inside each one, electromagnetic pulse weapons fired into the sky. The pulses were tuned to the exact frequency that Danny had stolen from the Drakari scouts. They hit the alien shields and tore them apart like paper. Vexnor's voice turned to a scream. "Our shields are down. All ships, raise emergency barriers." But there was no time. The second minute, the ground shook. Across Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, and Texas, the earth split open. Hidden missile silos that had been buried under fields for 30 years launched their weapons. Over 300 missiles rose into the sky, leaving trails of fire behind them. The third minute, the missiles found their targets. The Drakari ships tried to move, tried to fight back, but they were too slow. Their shields were gone, and their weapons could not track so many targets at once. Explosions filled the sky like a second sun. The fourth minute, the fighter jets launched. Pete Collins led the attack from the Morrison farm, his aircraft screaming out of an underground hangar. Across the network, 42 pilots took to the sky. They were old, retired, and had not flown combat missions in years. But they remembered how to fight. The fifth minute, the Drakari tried to organize. Vexnor shouted orders, trying to bring his fleet together. But Danny was in the command center below the barn, jamming their communications. The alien ships could not talk to each other. Each one fought alone. The sixth minute, more missiles launched. The second wave targeted the ships that had survived the first attack. The sky was full of smoke and fire and falling metal. Alien vessels crashed into the fields, digging trenches in the earth where crops had grown that morning. The seventh minute, the human pilots broke through the Drakari formation. Pete Collins put 3 missiles into a cruiser and watched it explode. Other pilots did the same. They flew between the enemy ships, too fast and too small to hit, striking again and again. The 8th minute, Linda activated the broadcast system. Her voice went out on every Drakari frequency, speaking their language perfectly. She had learned it years ago, when she worked in military intelligence. Attention Drakari forces. Your fleet is destroyed. Your commander is about to die. Surrender now, and you will be treated fairly. Continue fighting, and we will show no mercy. The 9th minute, Jake watched the flagship begin to fall. Missiles had torn through its engines. Fire poured from holes in its hull. High Commander Vexnor stood on his viewing platform, staring down at the human farmer who had destroyed his fleet. How? Vexnor screamed. You are nothing. You are farmers. Jake looked up at him. We are humans, and you made us angry. The flagship hit the ground 3 miles from the farmhouse. The explosion shook the earth and sent a pillar of smoke into the sky. High Commander Vexnor died in the wreckage, surrounded by the crops he had thought were worthless. The battle was over. In 9 minutes. 200 alien warships had been destroyed or disabled. The invasion fleet that had conquered Earth's greatest cities was gone. And it had all happened above a farm in Kansas. Pete Collins landed his fighter next to the barn. He climbed out and walked over to Jake, who was still standing in the cornfield. That was the fastest war I've ever fought, Pete said. Jake looked at the smoke rising from crashed ships all across the horizon. Let's hope we never have to fight another one. The other sites reported in. Victory across the network. The alien forces that had tried to flee were stopped by farms in other states. Survivors were captured and held for questioning. Danny came up from the command center with a tablet in his hand. Dad, we're getting signals from space. The rest of the Drakari fleet, the ships that weren't here, they're running. They're leaving Earth. Jake nodded slowly. Good. Let them run. And let them tell everyone in the galaxy what happened here today. What do we tell them? Jake looked at his son, then at the ruined field where the flagship had fallen. Tell them that Earth is not as weak as it looks. Tell them that humans protect their home. And tell them that if anyone else wants to try conquering us, they should remember what happened to the Drakari. The sun was still shining. The wind was still soft. And somewhere, beyond the smoke and the wreckage, the corn was still growing. The morning after the battle, Jake Morrison woke up at dawn like he always did. His body hurt in places he had forgotten about. He was too old for war, but the war had come to him anyway. He put on his boots, grabbed his coffee, and walked out to the porch. The farm looked different now. 3 alien ships had crashed in his north field. One had taken out half the corn. Another had destroyed the old storage shed that Jake's father had built 50 years ago. The third was buried nose first in the ground near the road, its tail sticking up like a strange metal tree. Linda came out and stood beside him. She had not slept much either. Her eyes were tired, but her voice was strong. News crews are coming. The whole world wants to talk to the farmer who ended the war. Jake sipped his coffee. I didn't end anything. We all did it together. Every farm in the network. Every pilot. Every soldier. Every family that kept a secret. They don't see it that way. They see you standing in that field, looking up at 200 ships and giving the order. Then they're missing the point. Danny came walking up from the barn. He had been up all night, working with the captured alien technology. His eyes were bright with excitement despite the lack of sleep. Dad, you won't believe what we found in the flagship wreckage. Their computers survived the crash. We've got star maps, weapon designs, communication codes for half the galaxy. This changes everything. Changes what? Everything. We can build ships that travel between stars. We can defend Earth from anything that comes at us. We can even contact other species and make alliances. Jake looked at his son. He was proud of the man Danny had become. Smart, brave, and still kind after everything he had seen. That sounds like a job for younger people, Jake said. I just want to fix my field. Beth came out of her clinic, leading a group of captured Drakari soldiers. They were bound with metal cords and looked confused. These were the survivors who had crawled out of crashed ships only to find human farmers pointing guns at them. One of the aliens looked at Jake with his black eyes. He was an officer of some kind, based on the marks on his uniform. Human, how did you do this? Jake walked over to him. He was shorter than the alien, older and more tired. But he was not afraid. We prepared. While your kind was busy conquering cities and showing off your power, we were getting ready. We knew someone would come for Earth eventually. We just didn't know when. But you hid your weapons. You pretended to be weak. Yes. Why? Jake thought about the question. He looked at his farm, at the crashed ships, at the sky that was clear again now that the enemy was gone. Because showing strength invites challenge. Hiding strength invites confidence. You came here thinking you had already won. You gathered your whole fleet in one place to watch a farmer surrender. And that was the moment you lost. The alien officer looked down. He had no answer. Sam Hendricks came over with Pete Collins. They both looked as tired as Jake felt. But there was satisfaction in their eyes too. Reports are in from all sides, Sam said. We lost 4 pilots. 12 people wounded. But we took out their entire invasion fleet. The military analysts are saying it's the most one-sided victory in the history of warfare. It didn't feel one-sided, Pete said quietly. Those 4 pilots were my friends. They stood in silence for a moment, honoring the ones who had died. The price of victory was never free. A car came down the road and stopped at the farm. A woman in a military uniform got out. She was young, maybe 30, with a serious face and a folder in her hands. Mr. Morrison? I'm Colonel Amy West from the United States Space Command. We've been authorized to offer you a position as Special Advisor to the Global Defense Council. The world wants you to help lead our defense going forward. Jake laughed softly. I'm a farmer, Colonel. I grow corn and raise chickens. I'm not a leader. With respect, sir, you just destroyed an alien armada with farms. The world disagrees. Linda touched Jake's arm. Maybe you should listen to what she has to say. Jake looked at his wife, then at his children, then at Sam and Pete. They had all fought together. They had all kept the secret together. And now they were being asked to do more. I'll listen, Jake said. But I'm not making any promises. This is my home. I'm not leaving it. Tom West nodded. We can work with that. The council can come to you. She handed him the folder and got back in her car. As she drove away, Jake opened the folder and looked inside. It was full of reports, proposals, and plans for the future defense of Earth. There were also messages from other countries, thanking the American farms for saving the world. Danny looked over his father's shoulder. What are you thinking, Dad? Jake closed the folder. He looked out at his damaged field, at the alien ships that had fallen from the sky, at the farm that had been in his family for 3 generations. I'm thinking that the corn needs replanting. I'm thinking that we need to rebuild the storage shed. I'm thinking that no matter what happens next, this land will always be worth protecting. He walked to his tractor, which had somehow survived the battle without a scratch. He climbed into the seat and started the engine. The sound was familiar and comforting. Beth called out to him. Dad, where are you going? There are reporters coming, officials who want to meet you. Jake looked back at her and smiled. They can wait. The field won't plant itself. He drove the tractor into the field, steering around the pieces of crashed ships. The soil was scarred, but it would heal. The crops were damaged, but they would grow back. And the farm would continue, just like it always had. Above him, the sky was blue and empty. No alien ships, no invaders, no threats. Just the sun and the clouds and the endless Kansas plains. Somewhere out in the galaxy, the surviving Drakari were spreading the news. Earth was not a weak planet full of primitive farmers. Earth was a trap waiting to be sprung. And the humans who lived there were not to be underestimated. Jake Morrison did not think about any of that. He just thought about the next row of seeds, the next season, the next harvest. That was enough. The war was over. The farm remained. And life went on.